Card and B Shifter. Welcome to the January 17th, 2024 webinar. And this webinar this month is intended for primarily Blue Card instructors. All are welcome to watch it, but this is going to be pivotal information for Blue Card instructors on some updates that we have done to the instructional material. Jeffrey King is going to deliver all that information to you. Then at the end of the video, Jeffrey's going to give you 3 things you need to do to make sure that you're up to date. Here is Blue Card Professional Development Manager, Jeffrey King.
All right, hello B-Shifters. We're here for an instructor update. We're going to talk about some of the changes that are coming to the program in 2024. So make sure we can get everybody on the exact same page as we're rolling out the new year. We happen to be here doing our webinar, so we've got a lot of stuff to cover with you. So if you guys do not mind, we'll jump right into it. So as we go through our instructor update for 2024, we're going to talk about some of the changes that have happened to the Day 1 PowerPoint. Now, most of these changes have come as a result of a number of things. Over the last couple of years, we've been lucky enough to be able to put out some pretty good workshops that we've gone through. We've had some division operations workshops, we've had some Mayday workshops, some big box workshops. And out of those, we've seen that there are elements of our program that we probably need to enhance to make sure that our students are out there able to perform as we expect them to out on the scene. So these are some of the changes we've made. You'll notice that the biggest change that in the Day 1 PowerPoint is we've probably removed some of the fire science information and kept this to a strategy class, not really delving into the weeds of some of the tactical assignments and task level work. So we've removed some of that and tried to stay true to what the Blue Card program is, and that's an incident command training system. So we'll start going through this and we'll show you some of the changes, and we'll move through pretty quickly, and you'll notice these, the Day 1 PowerPoints will be in the Instructor Download Center. They'll all be there available for you to pick up. We actually put them on the system already, so that's good for you guys. So the first big change is nothing really in Command Function 1, but you will see a couple of changes in Command Function number 2. And the updates and changes with this for Command Function 2 are really information that came from our Division Operations Workshop. We wanted to make sure that we weren't just preparing for IC number 1, the reinforcement of command with IC number 2, but how does that continue with the deployment of Division Supervisors? So some of those elements got added into this function, and we'll show you what it looks like. So again, selecting the proper command function, this doesn't change. This slide's identical to what it's been before. But you'll notice the first company officer is a mobile command, and the entire response team must be aware of the position and limitations of a mobile IC. What we wanted to do very early with this was make sure that everybody recognized all the potential things that IC number 1 could be involved with, and the reason why we need to be aware of their limitations. And we thought integrating this into this slide coming from the Division Ops class really helps our people out. So that's why we've added it here. Follows it up with the same slide you're used to, the mobile command positioning and advantages and disadvantages. There's no changes here. We continue to go up to the strategic command position. Again, no changes to this one. Here's a slightly different slide, again, coming out of the Division Operations class, where we start talking about the first arriving battalion chief is strategic command. That's where we start talking about the span of control, what they can effectively operate and manage. And this is where we introduce the idea that reinforced operations begin by transferring command to a chief officer in a strategically placed command post. And that's really the important piece here for IC number 2. Again, we follows it up with the standard slides you're used to, the working in a pickup or an SUV, the disadvantages of doing those, no big changes there. Then this is where we introduce some and just a touch of what you're going to deal with the division supervisor stuff that'll come up more in the Day 3 PowerPoint, which we'll discuss later. And this is the reduction of span of control by assigning division supervisors. We talk about the idea that tactical bosses are walking bosses, and they supervise and manage attack positions requiring 3 or more companies. So the quicker we can subdivide this incident and get somebody with boots on the ground in the division to control the people that are working in that division, the better job we do of subdividing this incident, of creating our organization as part of Command Function 6, and ultimately keeping our workers safe. So that's why we're introducing it here. We expand upon it more in Day 3. We talk about some of the tactical advantages of a reinforced command with a tactical boss. We show that the tactical boss maintains an effective span of control between the strategic and task levels. It improves operations, keeps firefighters safe. So we just got some visual imagery that goes along with it. So this one also a new slide. Same slide from the original day one. You guys are comfortable with this one, managing the strategic command position. No big deal there. And then we get into some changes in command function 4. So command function 3 stays relatively the same. You're not going to see a lot there. But we do have some modifications to the identify strategy and develop the IAP, specifically removing out a lot of the fire dynamics. That's available to all of our people still through the Size Up and Fire Extinguishment Tactics class. So we have a class to address those needs. It just happens to come in a different format, and it doesn't need to be in our IC certification class. So some of the updates and changes for command function 4. We remove some of the fire science, refocus the content on strategy and IAP development. You'll see that the standard slide that we have in here, the size up, 360-degree size up from an external standpoint. This one shows the Spartanburg test where you've got a GoPro and a TIC camera side by side with each other. We thought this was a good one to keep in here because the size up is a huge part of what we do. But what we added to this one was the next slide, which was most important, is being able to do the 360-degree size up from an internal standpoint and making sure that everybody understands how to use a TIC, what you're looking for with the TIC, and including a little bit of video content to support what we're looking at. You're going to use the TIC the same way you would on the outside. So that's being able to look at it, to process it, aim, process it, and look at everything else. You want to evaluate the interior conditions and be able to get kind of a ceiling to floor understanding of what's going in. We talk about size up in the 7 sides that we look at. And from the external, we're talking about Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. When we go inside, that's another factor that we can evaluate. When we get inside, we want to look above our heads and below our feet. So this starts the idea of having the conversations about the 7 sides of the size up. Remember that fire is a heat and pressure driven event. It fills that container from the top down, and ultimately it's going to follow the path of least resistance. So as this video starts to play, not only can you see the energy and where it's originating from this protected position on the other side of the corner of this structure, you can also see some small flow paths inside where the cooler air is flowing back toward the fire itself to help feed the fire. So it's a good little video, and it provides an excellent opportunity that's still part of the size up process. We'll play it real quick and let you take a look at it. And you'll start to see some of the air moving in, where it's tracking toward. You can see the energy, that the energy is moving toward the people in the camera where the open door is. So there's just a lot of great visuals there. You can see the temperature differentials, recognizing, hey, if you've got color on your screen, you need to cool it with water. Gray is generally okay for you to maneuver around, but with the color, we've got to get those thermal threats reduced. And this gives us an excellent opportunity to take a look at it and talk about it. So command function 6, we'll talk about some of the changes to the organization and what we'll talk about there. Biggest ones come from work to enhance the IC's understanding of how and why to build out a fireground organization. We have a lot of conversations with a lot of folks that are coming through the program that talk about, do we build out the organization first? Do we do these other things? So we try to clarify some of this for our students. Organizational truth, modified this slide just a little bit. ICs subdivide an incident to reduce their span of control. They must build an organization that supervises the work being done. This improves accountability and helps keep our workers safe. We need to avoid renaming units when it doesn't reduce our span of control or ultimately help us have accountability within the system. So it's a slight modification to the slide, but we think it provides a little bit more enhancement to our understanding of what we're doing with building the organization. Match and balance the organization to the size, structure, and complexity of operating resources. A very similar slide. No changes to this one whatsoever. No changes to this one. The forecast and established hazard zone when assigning 3 or more companies. Again, this starts talking about the task math. We've got so many jobs that need to be done. We've got to make sure we've got enough companies available to do the job, and we're assigning companies to do the work and not waiting on assignments for specific apparatus. If there's a job to be done, we're going to assign company to the work and make sure it's handled correctly. Naming the hazard zone is important, making sure we can understand where Alpha is, where Bravo is, where Charlie and Delta are. It's important to get that laid out very early with that accountability position for the first apparatus on that location. No changes to this one at all. That works out pretty good. So no changes to this slide. It's a standard slide, been part of the system for a very long time. There are 3 operational levels on all incidents that have an IDLH hazard zone. And the important part of it still being that no operational level can perform the functions or responsibilities of any other level. So no changes. This slide remains the same. Remains the same here. We start talking about the task level. No changes to this slide. No changes to the tactical level responsibility slide. No changes to the strategic ISO side. All this is the same. You've seen it in your system for a number of years. No problems there for anybody. Command function number 8, continue, transfer, reinforce, and terminate command. We're making some slight changes based on what the anticipation is of the Fire Command 3 textbook. We'll talk about an update of the textbook as we go through this, but this is where there's a slight change to the title, so we're looking at incorporating that early on in what we're doing here. We're going to offer further explanation of establishing a strategic command post and the importance of mental health checks. These are some of the things that we added to it. So we start talking about the required support with the IC. Standard slide, part of the package for a number of years, no changes to this slide. The difference comes in the next slide, where we actually show kind of a cartoon layout of how this strategic command position gets laid out, showing the 5-person command team consisting of IC number 2 and their support officer, the senior advisor and their location, along with logistics and safety. So we're just trying to give a visual for it because we think that provides a better bridging to the next slide where you show the command post communication advantage. So it just shows how they're laid out, and then that layout translates into how it actually functions on the fire ground with the multiple radio channels. Again, this is not a new slide, but we think the other slide helps it out a little bit. And this is the other one that we added at the end of the slide in providing critical incident support to our people, and how important it is to do a post-incident review to help ensure that the responders are mentally and physically stable and capable of being placed back into service. We've got to do what we can to take care of our members and make sure that they're fit enough to go back to work. So command function 5, a few changes here. We'll talk about what those changes are here in just a second. We're going to provide greater clarity on certain aspects of fireground communication, and we're going to try to work to ensure that the continuity throughout the program. So that's all we're doing with these changes. Order model, standard slide. You've seen this slide 100 times if you've been teaching, and we hope everybody paying attention to this podcast are those individuals that are actively engaged with the program. So you're familiar with this slide. There's no change here. But what we wanted to do on the next couple of slides is really try to illustrate for later on down the line the importance of the order model and how it establishes a communication loop, that the sender contacts the receiver states their readiness, then the sender transmits the message, the receiver repeats it back, paraphrasing it, and then function 5 where they have the opportunity to correct any misunderstanding. We want to show the importance of being able to open the loop and close the loop and why we want that to take place on the fire ground. So we come with the next slide, and it says all radio transmissions start by identifying the nature of the message. And this accomplishes 3 things. 1, it allows the receiver to prepare for the message that is being transmitted. I know what's coming if somebody calls with a status change or priority traffic. 2, it allows the receiver to triage messages if multiple calls are coming in simultaneously. It's very important for us to preload the nature of that message because it allows that person sitting in the command post to work through and filter those messages and take the most pressing one first and then open up communication with the other ones as that communication loop closes. Also, it allows everyone on the tactical channel to know what's being discussed. We want everybody to be aware of what's going on, and that helps us make sure we all have a collective understanding of what the commander's intent is as we're going through this incident. Initial radio report, everybody has seen this slide. The most important communication we transmit throughout an entire incident. I believe this to be 100% wholly accurate. And if that is accurate, then we need to make sure we are being consistent with how we communicate on the fire ground, especially as it applies to the initial radio report and the follow-up report. So why are we contacting dispatch? Very similar slide where clearing the alarm does 3 things. You've seen this slide before, but what is different is at the very bottom. And you will notice that this slide is set up by saying that engine 1 is calling an alarm with an initial radio report. If the initial radio report is probably the most important piece of communication, then it is important for us to front load that message so everybody knows the initial radio report is coming. Dispatcher alarm will follow up with go ahead engine 1, and then they will start the standard transmission of engine 1 is on scene of. So that's really the subtle little change. it has a big impact on what we're doing, but it's really small in how we're setting up and moving forward. Building description, no changes there. Size, height, occupancy type. Building description size, you'll notice that everything is the same. Then we get into the defining the size of a structure. And our standard wear that you see, we use the cross lay as our measuring stick. If you've got a 30-foot offset and you've got roughly 170 feet of line, if that 170 feet of line can cover 100% of the fire area, we know we have small. We know medium gives us 75. We know that large gives us 50. And we know that mega gives us 25% of the fire area. And these are all great things that we can use consistently. Now, what we've had is a number of organizations and a number of communities have asked about using local construction and square footage to define the size of their residential structures. If this is something you want to do, then we've kind of laid it out in this program for you to be able to do that, saying, hey, our residential houses are this size. What I would recommend to anybody with this is take this, find out what they are in your territory, come up with what a small is in your territory, replace the picture with imagery from your territory so it resonates with your people. So this just says small up to 1,500 square feet, medium 1,500 to 3,000 square feet, a large 3,000 to 4,500 square feet, and a huge or mega anything bigger than 4,500 square feet. If this is something that you think adds confusion or something that you don't think is going to enhance what you're delivering to your people, take these slides out and keep the standard size evaluation with just the crosslay. If you think it does help, customize it, make it reflective of your organization and what you respond to. Command transfers, nothing really big here except one small piece, and that is our communication to IC number 1 for the command transfer. Once we've gone on scene and contacted dispatch and we're time-stamped into the event and we've got everything on our worksheet ready to go, we are going to reach out to IC number 1 and let them know we are contacting them for a command transfer. Again, front-loading the message with the nature of the communication is important. So Battalion 1 calling command for a command transfer. Everything else from that point is the exact same. We're just loading the message with what we're calling them to talk about. It just makes consistency and continuity with the program, which makes it easier for us to teach and easier for a student to receive when we do the same things and ask the same things of them throughout the program. Radio discipline, no change on the slide. We come back to the communication loop, and radio discipline is achieved when individuals communicating on the fire ground allow the communication loop to open and close naturally without interruption. That means if somebody's talking on the radio, we give them the opportunity to close off that communication before we open up another message. And that's really important for the discipline, please. Fireground communication and CAN reports. When providing the IC or sector division supervisor with the CAN, begin the communication with the tactical benchmarks that have been achieved. Now, this is something that we've made adjustments to over the last couple of years, but it's probably important for us to reinforce. Lead with the benchmarks. Lead with the things that are getting done that command needs to be able to know how many more resources they might need to manage this incident. And when we start talking about benchmarks, we start talking about getting the fire under control. Knock down, fire control, having checked for extension, making sure all 7 sides were good and the fire's under control. Using search and rescue through your primary and secondary searches to get all clears. Getting the loss stopped. Those are the benchmarks we need to lead with and then follow that with our conditions, actions, and needs. That sets the ICs up to be much more successful at managing and mitigating the hazard. Nothing changed here. Assign unit portable radio reports. What we can do in there, very similar, going to the IC or going to your sector division supervisor. It's been in the Day 1 PowerPoint for a number of years now. Newer slide, radio reporting and communication loops. The only messages allowed to interrupt communication loop is going to be your priority traffic or mayday traffic. We thought the visual does a good job. We've talked about communication loops now in the beginning. We talk about them in communication, and now we're showing the only thing that we should be using to interrupt that is priority traffic from the fire ground to command or mayday traffic coming from the fire ground. So that's everything with Day 1. Again, not huge, not big sweeping changes. What I can tell you is that as command function, or as the Fire Command 3rd edition is done, there'll be a new online program. There'll be a few other elements that'll get changed. But in whole, this is a program that is driven around the functions of command. That's not going to change. The strategic decision-making model is not going to change. That helps us evaluate everything. And how we communicate is not going to change. So I think we're in a good spot there. So we'll continue, and we'll keep talking about the Big Box 3B simulation preview. Some of the updates and changes to this were really based on information that we got from the division operations workshops. Again, we broke out some of the training that we were doing to really expand on certain topics, and division operations was one of them. And making sure that everybody understands how to set it up, how to make it work was important. So we'll show you what we've added to it that came from that class. When you get to the section that talks about the hazard zone job description, this is what starts to come up. We start talking about assigning divisions. We start talking about the strategic level benefit for an IC assigning a chief officer as a sector division supervisor, reducing the span of control, putting a chief officer with boots on the ground in the sector division. It's important to have somebody in that division who is managing those companies. It's just not going to be the strategic IC. The strategic IC's got a very important job to do. We've got to make sure that we can put somebody with boots on the ground in the division to manage those companies. Managing a sector division operations from within the warm zone provides true entry control, reduces freelancing, provides a set of eyes dedicated to evaluating the conditions in the sector division, and it enhances fireground accountability by moving from the IC's position and function to a passport system. So when you think about the accountability system within Blue Card, starting at the task level with voice, vision, and touch being maintained by the company officer, when the strategic IC comes in place, they are now responsible for the position and function of everybody on the fireground. When they subdivide the incident with reinforced command by assigning chief officers as sector division supervisors, we transition from position and function to a passport system who's controlling people coming in and out of a structure. It's one more layer of accountability that is very simple to do, but provides tremendous results on the back end. Ultimately, you see at the bottom, the benefit of that is it improves firefighter safety. Strategic level responsibilities for an IC, assigning a chief officer as a sector division supervisor. Most importantly, we've got to communicate the planned assignment and position for BC2 for that division. We need to rename BC2 to reflect that new assignment. So if we're taking BC2 and we're pushing them forward to take over Alpha, now the Alpha side is going to become the Alpha division. This is an important distinction to make in your classes. The difference between a side and a division is a division has a boss. A side is merely that. It's just the geographical location. It doesn't become a division until it gets a boss. We confirm the strategy and provide the tactical objectives for the division, formally transfer the companies to the division, and then we will support the division with resources as requested. That leads into the highlighted message at the bottom that we do not want to micromanage our sector division supervisors. If there's something going on and we want to know what's happening in that division, we reach out and talk to that division. We don't assign companies on top of them. If the sector division supervisor asks for resources, we provide them what they need. We just let them do their job. Assigning divisions. So we actually took what was essentially the command transfer page and recreated it from an assigning a division standpoint, and it works the same way. What you're going to have is the second BC or the second arriving chief officer is going to show up on location, and they're going to acknowledge that they're level 1. Well, that's wonderful. So now they're level 1. They're going to get everything together. What command is going to do is they're going to use the order model and communicate the assignment to BC2. If possible, get BC2 to conduct a size up while they're in transit and ask for a can once they're in the sector division. If timing doesn't allow for a size up, push them forward and have them give you a can when they get there. The reason for this is very simple. We don't want to assign companies while you have a supervisor that is in transit. We want them to be able to take over command once you give them the companies and you communicate with everybody else. What the can report does for us is it lets us know that that person is in position and now ready to assume command of that side. So that's why we're having them give the can report. Once you get the can report, you got to be prepared to address the needs within it. You're going to formalize the new sector division by renaming Battalion 2 as Division, hypothetically in this situation, Alpha, and confirm the overall strategy and tactical objectives. You're going to tell them the strategy, and you're going to tell them what needs to be done. Where in the offensive strategy, I need you to complete fire control and primary search through Alpha. You're going to provide that tactical boss with the companies being transferred. You're going to use the order model and contact the companies under strategic command and transfer them to the division supervisors. As simple as command calling Engine 1, Ladder 1, and Engine 2, you will now be reporting to Battalion 2, who is Alpha. Get the confirmation. Now they're all talking to Alpha. Those are their companies. You go back to command. Division supervisor responsibilities. We talk about this. Similar slide that you've seen in the class before. The tactical and task level workers wear the full PPE. We have to model the behaviors and expectations we have of the organization. If you don't want your people breathing this, if you don't want their skin exposed to this, then you need to be modeling the expectations you have for your organization. And that means if you're in the warm zone, you wear the same apparel and PPE as the workers in that space. Work together, stay together. We do this as a paired set. We have a battalion with a support officer. If you're going in together, you stay together, you work together, you travel together. Pretty simple. That's the way the fire service works. 2 in, 2 out. We're not abandoning it here at the command level. The sector division supervisors should place themselves in the warm zone and avoid entering the hot zone. We're not telling you you can't stick your head in and take a look and take a peek. What we're telling you is your job is to sit at that position to control the access of companies coming in and control the companies coming out. And now you have responsibility at the passport level for all the companies coming in and out of your area. It allows you to keep track of accountability. We break down the supervisors into 2 different responsibilities. You see the tactical level responsibilities, generally handled by a battalion chief in our system, and the embedded safety responsibilities that are handled by a support officer in our system. Make note, if you are part of an organization that sends somebody to a division as a single individual, both the tactical and the embedded safety responsibilities fall on that one person. It is a difficult and arduous task, so we absolutely separate these 2, and you'll see why as we go through it. Tactical level responsibilities. What are we talking about? You have the responsibility to make sure your plan matches the IC's plan. You are responsible for all the risk management within your division. You are responsible for entry control, people coming in and out of your division. Your job is to complete the tactical priorities within your division. You've got to make sure that your positions match the conditions, and then implement and manage the sector division IAP. It is not any different than the strategic level responsibilities. The difference is it's only for a given geographic area. You are the division supervisor. You are responsible for all these things within your division. Your job is to continually evaluate the conditions in the sector division. We're constantly going through this process of reviewing, evaluating, and revising. That is why the strategic decision-making model is so important. The same model that we use for strategic command is the same model that should be used for our division supervisors. It is going to be our evaluation of the critical fireground factors that allow us to come up with an effective risk management plan that puts us in the appropriate strategy, that allows us to create an incident action plan with a task location objective for everybody to satisfy the incident's tactical priorities. All of this should be backed up by our SOPs, and the best part of this whole system is that small arrow that goes from tactical priorities back to critical fireground factors. That is Command Function 7 in a nutshell. That is the review, evaluate, and revise. That's what takes this system from the initial snapshot that the IC has from they getting there to something that is dynamic and changing over the course of the event. And as we get new information and plug it into our model, we get new outputs and must take action on those outputs. The sector division supervisor is the tactical boss for their sector division and must manage all the assigned resources. Not a new slide, same slide as before, just got new stuff before it and after it. The sector division supervisors must understand the capabilities and limitations of companies assigned to attack positions. It's important for everybody at the strategic and at the tactical level. You got to know the strengths and weaknesses of the people you're working with. Limits units assigned to the hazard zone sector division to 3 to 4 companies with 1 supervisor. Look, at the strategic level, we start talking about span of control, maybe 5 to 7. You're in an enclosed space. no environmental threats in the strategic command post. You've got climate control. You've got a mobile radio, which is one of the stronger radios in your system. It is the best place from which to command. When you push somebody forward with boots on the ground as a walking boss in a division, now you're having to deal with all the elements, all the smoke, all the noise, and everything else. As a result, your span of control needs to be reduced to reflect all the other elements that are causing problems for that. Again, what we're doing is about supervising the work and keeping our people safe. If we are distracted, we cannot keep our people safe. We talk about 3 deep deployment within the program and 3 deep deployment at the strategic level. We have companies working in the hot zone. We've got people working in the warm zone and our on-deck companies in the warm zone. And then at the 3rd level, we had level 1 and level 2 staging. As a division supervisor, we're not really concerned with what's going on in level 1 and level 2 staging. What we are concerned enough is making sure that we have enough resources in the hot zone to mitigate the hazard and in the warm zone as a tactical reserve to get the job done. So this is just a little bit of visual imagery to reinforce that for everyone out there. The embedded safety responsibilities, we talk about those. Not a new slide. You manage the passports and tracking system. You track and manage the work times of interior crews around SCBA working air times. You assist with the rotation of companies in and out of the hazard zone. You're going to manage the on-deck crews and manage the recycle and rehabbing of crews. Not a new slide at all. This slide is now reinforced. We get back to this division accountability routine. We show that the engineer, the first arriving apparatus, becomes the accountability officer for that division in the beginning. That's why you say, hey, engine 1 is going to be alpha side accountability. Now, everybody who's working off that apparatus will come and bring their passport to the engineer. When it is upgraded to a division, either the division chief, the supervisor, or the support officer will come forward and they'll grab the passports. And once upgraded, the passports become the accountability officer and will take place at the entry point so no one gets in and out of the structure. What we've changed is we've added a couple of videos. We start talking about transferring accountability from engineer of engine 1 to the division supervisor or support officer. This has a video that plays. So they've effectively taken all the passports that were delivered to the accountability location. They've moved those forward to a division supervisor. Now the division supervisor has them on a board for accountability purposes. Then we'll move forward and we'll see, hey, the passport accountability being managed by a division supervisor.
So engine 59 came out, squad 59 went in and replaced engine 59. So Alpha's going to move the passports around. Squad 59 is now on the red side, which is inside the building, and on the red hand line as marked on the board. And engine 59 is now on the yellow side, which is on deck. And as you see, the on-deck equipment is in the front yard, ready to go. Bare minimum air transfill bag and some spare cylinders.
So just giving a little bit of visual understanding of what this process looks like. We've had it in the division ops class, but we thought it would be valuable to add to this since we start doing that with day 3. So we've incorporated into what we're doing. Sector Division Support Officer will need to ensure that companies are properly dressed and using the proper safety equipment prior to entering. Look, that's no different than anything else. They're checking them, make sure the gear is good, their tick is good, their radio's on, it's on the right channel before they're going in. You're not getting them dressed, you're just doing a glance to make sure that everything they're doing is safe before they go in. You're responsible for the on-deck crew. So those companies that are sitting there in on-deck position, with the first one there having the responsibility of rapid intervention crew, you've got to make sure that they have everything there to do that. You're managing the work times of the IDLH crew because you're able to check right when they go on air and when they come out, and you'll have a good understanding of what those work rest cycles would be. You're responsible for the air supply of the IDLH crew, getting them out in time. We start talking about the bottle, that you've got a third to go in and do a little bit of work. You've got a third of the bottle to get yourself back out. And you've got a third, that final third of the bottle is really for your loved ones and the people who care about you. We should not be going into Vibe Alert inside an IDLH situation. That Vibe Alert should not go off at any point, but if it goes off, it should be outside. Focus with a round trip ticket mentality, making sure that the crews go in together, they operate together, and they are coming out together. That's part of the accountability that takes place in that warm zone. All the rapid intervention equipment is going to be there. Again, these images that are part of the package. If you have pictures of what your rapid intervention equipment looks like, put your pictures in. Make it reflective of your organization. The support officer with the division supervisor will manage recycling and rehabbing of crews. Not a different slide, been there the whole time. So the sector division communication advantage, some of the newer slides. Huge advantage to a walking boss as a sector division supervisor is the ability to have face-to-face communications with the assigned companies. And the reason, the value for the face-to-face communication is pretty simple. One, this frees up traffic for Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. If this program came about as a result of the Tarver fire and what we're looking at, we understand that we are trying to clear up radio traffic for the Mayday, Mayday, Mayday transmission, the most important on the fire ground. And if we can take out some of the communication that's taking place on the radio and do it face-to-face, that frees that up for everything. The other thing is it eliminates communication equipment problems. Face-to-face communication means I'm no longer relying on technology to communicate to my people. And that's critical because everyone has had problems with communication equipment at one point or another in their careers in the fire service. The third bullet says it allows us to elaborate on task, location, objective of orders. It allows us to give some pretty clear and distinct conversations about what needs to happen and make sure that there's no problems. We can be a little bit longer than we would be if we were on the radio. Improves the accuracy of air management because we know exactly when they go on air, and that gives us greater control of the work-rest cycles, all which are big pluses for us. The sector division radio communications, all rules regarding routine radio traffic and radio discipline apply to radio communication within a division. It applies across the fire ground. So we're just clarifying that all the same things that we did in Command Function 5 are applicable here. Company officers assigned to a sector division should communicate exclusively with the sector division supervisor. You communicate with your boss. That's who you're supposed to talk to. ICs needing information from a sector division should contact the division supervisor for a CAN and not the units themselves within the division. Mayday Operations Overview, some of the changes within the Mayday Operations Overview PowerPoint. Simplified the Mayday communications by aligning with standard radio traffic and added some information from the workshop. So again, we've done over the last 2, 3, 4 years a number of Mayday management workshops in trying to incorporate some of the lessons we've learned from that into the Mayday Operations Overview for our people. Important slide. You better be doing everything right when something goes wrong. Those of you that have been in our Mayday management workshops know two things. We open the class with this, and we close the class with this. And over the course of the 2 days, the nature of this message completely changes because the idea of doing everything right grows tremendously as you go through the workshop. So we wanted to put it in here to reinforce that message because it's so poignant. Fireground communications continued. We'll talk about that. Fireground companies must maintain strict communication discipline during a Mayday call. All Mayday-related radio traffic will be initiated by front-loading the message with the word Mayday. So if you are doing work specifically tied to the Mayday, if you are sent in as a company to help cut somebody out or to help extricate a company, then the message you're going to lead with would be Mayday. So if I'm Ladder 1 and I'm sent inside to help extricate one of Engine 1's crew members and I get there and I get the patient package, that would be Ladder 1 calling my division boss or command with a Mayday status change. Still a status change because I'm getting ready to leave the structure and come out with my person, but it's also tied specifically to the Mayday because all those other radio traffic is still going on. We still have status changes. We still have priority traffic. We still have a fire to fight. We're just front loading it with the word Mayday to simplify our communication package. We say all the time, you don't try to stand up anything new in the midst of a Mayday. So we're just keeping the communication very simplified by putting Mayday in front. We come here, simulation previews and instructor guides. Okay, so we've gone through the stuff that's really tied to some of the items tied to the 3-day CERT lab. We've talked about some of the changes that have happened with the Mayday operations. Simulation previews, for those that do not know, all 5 of the major sims that we use for the occupancies to check people off, there is a new preview process that we go through that actually walks students through the strategic decision-making model. Instead of pre-assigning them, we work through the decision-making process and reach an agreed-upon idea of how we're going to execute a sim. Those have been updated. One of the lead instructors, Sean Glazer, has helped tremendously by helping build out some of these. We're in the process of reviewing them, validating them, and getting them ready to go. When they're ready, they'll go up on the website under the Instructor Download Center, and they'll have instructor guides that'll go with them. Airport Rescue Firefighting Program. We have a lot of the module done. We have an aircraft rescue firefighting incident command that is being built right now using the Articulate software. We have all the functions of command built out at the moment. We've got a large test bank of roughly 45 pages that are coming from the SOP and the Fire Command textbook that serve as the cognitive learning elements. We're in the process of aligning where we're going to put in some of the talking head pieces and be able to push this out, hopefully, in the not too distant future. That'll be good to be able to have that out for everybody. Fire Command 3rd edition. It's our understanding that the 3rd edition is essentially has all the elements done. It's with our wonderful editor, Michelle Garrido, who's looking over everything. We would imagine this will be available in digital format before the end of the year. And as it becomes available in digital format, then we will start the process of rebuilding and realigning the program to be able to effectively teach what's in Fire Command. When you look at Fire Command is a textbook that supports everything we're doing. It is the foundation of our program. What Blue Card is the educational leg of that program. Blue Card's how we teach those elements to our incident commanders out in the field. So we'll have to make some adjustments. It's going to be a wonderful time to be able to update this. Considering when the last update was done, this may be the last update we see on the Fire Command for a long time. So there's a lot of great information that's been added to it, and I think everybody's going to be really excited when it comes out. Updated customer service book. So there's been some updates to the original customer service book that's going to come out, which will be wonderful for everybody. There'll be some programs that will come with it, and this content will also show up on the new website. We'll be able to create some quick classes and help people do a better job of understanding the value of customer service within our industry. Not just our external customers, but the internal customers, the people that help us get this job done. A lot of stuff in here that's going to be supportive of that information. Workshops on critical thinking and strategic decision making. Another one of the workshops we've put together that's been really, really well received. Making sure that we understand how to work through some strategic decision making and go through the critical thinking process to solve the problems that we're faced with on the fire ground, and helping make sense of something that seems so complex and difficult by really simplifying, focus in on what the process is and allow the process to drive the results. Great program. We recommend as it continues to be rolled out that you guys make an opportunity to find it or bring it to your area. Updates to the safety workshop. Again, our Size Up and Fire Extinguishment Tactics class, we have been averaging, I think what we were told, around 20 to 25 of these a year, 2-day workshops. They come in, we've got a wonderful prop. If any of you ever played with the dollhouse prop, we have one that is incredible, comes with the class. It becomes a train-the-trainer program where what we have done is merge the information that has come out of UL, that has come out of NIST over the last 15 to 20 years, and merge that with what it means to be in command positions. What we have seen and what shows up time to time again in the line of duty death reports and all these other things, that we've got to make sure that the task level people, the tactical level people, and the strategic level people are all seeing the incident the same way. So we're going to be adding some updated information, really reinforcing this. We've got some great TIC videos that get added to it. This is also an elements of a TIC class. So we've got strategy, tactics, TICs, decision-making all worked up into one class. So it's a great one if you ever decide to have it. Silverback Leadership, which is being worked on by Terry Garrison and Nick Brunacini right now. This is they are in the process of going through all the different elements that Chief Brunacini has left over the years to outline this. Some of you that were in Cincinnati for the Hazard Zone workshop saw some of the beginnings of the Silverback Leadership. If you went to any of those sessions, they were standing room only. So yeah, if you get a chance, you're going to start seeing this. It is not going to be released as a total program. As elements are done, they'll start releasing them for everybody to take a look at them and evaluate them. And it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful element to add to the program. When you see what we're doing, there's going to be so much more value added for the person who is involved with B-Shifter, Across the Street Productions, and Blue Card. So this is just one more program that's really going to enhance how we're able to do our jobs out at the fire stations. Technical rescue training CEs. Again, we're adding more content to the CE library that is representative of the different things that we have to do in the fire service. And technical rescue CEs are just some of them. We'll have some on elevators, on helicopter hazard zones. We'll have some on trench. Everything that you can think of that applies to that, how to show up, take command of these incidents, and manage these as an IC within the Blue Card system. We can't use Blue Card just on our fires. Blue Card is something, the incident command system is relevant on EMS calls, it's resident on technical rescue calls, water rescue, whatever it is, there's an element of incident command that needs to be there. These will be cultivated to reflect that need. Fire suppression system CEs with National Fire Sprinkler Association and Shane Ray. For those that have been to any of our big box workshops, and then I'd probably say the last year and a half, we have been honored to have Shane Ray be a part of these. And he comes in for day one as the president of the National Fire Sprinkler Association and just provides an overwhelming amount of information about sprinkler systems, fire department supporting sprinkler systems, and the simple message, hey, pull up, hook up, and pump the system that you'll hear him say over and over throughout the class. You're also going to be getting some CEs that specifically tie to the different types of sprinkler systems. And this is coming from the experts in our industry. So be prepared for those. It's a wonderful addition. Again, more value-added programming for the people in our system. New CEs having to do with some of the construction challenges we're facing in the fire service. You know, in the small classes that we've done already at the beginning of the year, we're hearing people talking about, you know, insulated walls, concrete construction. We're talking about, we've seen some that have even some plastics and other things that are involved in the construction process as really substantive items that should not be. We're going to talk about those as they come up. We'll expose more people to them. So as they show up in your territories, as they show up in your response areas, you'll have an idea of what to look for, how to identify them, and hopefully give you some insight on how to respond. We can't change the fact that the construction industry does not give a darn about the fire service, but we have a responsibility to make sure that we can respond to it effectively, help the people who call us, and keep our people safe in the response process. Monthly webinars. Hey, you're on one now. We've had webinars so far. We had one on grants. We had another one on the critical thinking and decision-making process. We've got this one happening here as an instructor update. We will be having these webinars on a monthly basis. Folks can sign in. They can all participate. They're recorded so you can see them at a later date. My gosh, for our friends in Australia, if we're having them at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 3 o'clock in the morning for you, we got to make sure that you're squared away and can get it. So it'll be available for you in another format. You can watch it at a later date. But webinars are going to cover a wide range of topics with a lot of different people coming in. So it's a great educational opportunity once a month for you to sit down and bring your folks together and go through some learning. B-Shifter Buck Slip, if you guys have been paying attention to your emails, whatever they're coming through the last couple of years, the Buck Slip has really evolved and is taken over what we did with our magazine. The magazine was coming out on a quarterly basis, sometimes 3 times a year. The Buck Slip is coming out every week, and it has the same articles, the same information. It's just a way for us to connect to you in a little bit more real time with information that is pertinent and pressing. It's a great communication tool, links to articles, links to CE classes, links to videos, links to content that we're talking about, people's radio traffic. It's a wonderful tool. You'll get it every week in your email. Heck, if you're not getting it right now, email us so we can get your name on the list and make sure that you are getting it through the system. And that's going to be our communication tool for a while. So again, if you got a chance and you're not getting it, let us know and we'll make sure you're getting the Buck Slip.
Hey, if you've got any questions for us pertaining to the delivery of the Blue Card program, how to instruct, how to roll things out, make sure to send it to us at communications@bshifter.com. Jeffrey, we do have one question here. This is pertaining to sets and reps. Why did we change to the sets and reps model versus just sending everyone through the simulator? And we do know that through our travels and through some of the new instructors that come into the AAVB, CTC, and elsewhere where we're doing train the trainers, we're told a lot that they are still teaching in some places on the old model. So if you could paraphrase for us a little bit, like what is the latest and greatest and why did we do it?
That is an excellent question. I think the core of this question comes down to the student. And what was recognized over a period of time is that we really needed more time on the radio to really build upon our foundation as incident commanders, to get solid with what we're doing. And Blue Card, for everybody out there that knows, is an accredited program, which means the curriculum has been vetted by an institution of higher learning to make sure that our individuals can get credit at a baccalaureate level for some of the classes that they take within Blue Card. Part of the accreditation process was having a 40 to 50 hour online program. As we were going through the accreditation process a second time, we were able to move out some of the online content, reduce it to a 30 to 35 hour program, and put that other elements back into the program on the CTC side as part of the sets and reps. And what sets and reps does for us is it allows us to come in to practice all the different types of radio traffic in a controlled environment before we run into a simulation and try it in real time. More importantly, it keeps more of the students involved. With a 4-to-1 student to instructor ratio, you go in there, everybody is engaged throughout the entire session of doing sets and reps, whether it's on commercial, a strip mall, or a residential structure. It just allows us to pick up where we left off from moving that content out of the online, placing it into the hands-on portion, into the CTC, and enhance our ability as incident commanders by improving our comfort level.
All right. Thanks, Bill, for your question.
So now there's some things for you to do. As instructors, my recommendation would be very simple. Let's start with the easy piece. One, go to the Instructor Download Center. In the Instructor Download Center, what I would recommend is finding the Day 1 PowerPoint, the new one that's marked by the 24. Download that because you'll be using that moving forward. Find the Big Box 3B simulation in the PowerPoints. Download it. Again, it's noted with the 24. And if you're doing a Mayday class, then use the Mayday Operations Overview 24 folder that is also in the PowerPoint section and use that as part of your new training material. Those are the things that I would recommend getting started with. As you continue to move forward, look at some of the training opportunities that are coming. Pay attention to the B-Shifter buck slip, because that's going to tell you if we've got a big box workshop, if we've got some safety trainings coming on, if we've got a Mayday management workshop, a division operations workshop, a workshop on critical thinking and strategic decision making. Find all that information, sign yourself up. The Hazard Zone Conference will be coming up again in October in Cincinnati again this year. Wonderful opportunity to gather with a bunch of people in the industry who have a similar view and mindset on fireground operations that we have here at Blue Card. So it's a great gathering of folks. Pay attention for the new CEs, the new fire command as it's coming up. There's a lot of things happening this year. We're very excited about it. We're happy to have you be a part of it, and we can't wait to see what 2024 has to come. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.